Gandhi ritual. Run the ball like Mitchell, or you can be like Reynolds and Skipple. Give it to Johnston and he'll get triple. Pass it to Cleary, you know he'll run the pitch. Score points like Jabojevic, I'm game day fit, no need a switch. Cooking up like Cookie Man's in the kitchen. Who's that on the wing? It's Sivo. Score, try and do the Guffrino. Don't get too rowdy or too keen, or you'll end up like Hassan Tino. Get a 40-20 like BCE. Run the ball like hectic cheese. Support runner, that's Pappenhausen, but I still got Teddy at the SCG.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Final Siren podcast. Faraz and myself are here today. Lachlan may join hereabouts at some point, and Davos maybe, slightly maybe. I'm not too sure yet. But Faraz and I will start things off. But first off, Faraz, how are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. Pumped after my Broncos got the big victory. That was a nerve-wracking match. But, yeah, we're looking to round two now, and hopefully we can back it up here.
Beautiful. In case you didn't know, we currently have no viewers, but anyone who does join and ends up seeing this, we do have a tipping comp it's on the NRL tipping app. I should have been more specific about that in the last episode. But so make sure if you join this, we'll be putting in a $100 prize for the winner. So make sure you join it. We currently have, I think, quite a few people in there. But I mean, let me just quickly check before I make any sort of promises about the amount of people we have in there. We currently have about 15 people in there at the moment. So if you aren't already in, make sure you head in. You can have a chance to win $100 as we have Lockie joining us just now. But yeah, so if you're not part of the tipping comp, make sure you join. It's on the NRL tipping app. There's the code on the screen. I'll put it in the chat soon as well. But Lockie, how you doing today, mate?
Yeah, good. How are you boys?
Yeah, really good. Actually.
Yeah, not too bad.
Obviously, all of us will be pumped after that. Like Faraz was saying before, after that win against Penrith this weekend. Last weekend.
Final tickets, boys.
Just about ready to. But we'll start off with the results for each game. And the first result was Thursday night. Went to Golden Point. Storm versus Eels. The Storm victors 16-12. Give your thoughts on it. Lockie, you start us off.
Yeah. I'll start off by saying some of the games this round I didn't watch. I was in Brisbane myself. I was seeing family and getting myself organised as I'm moving there in 2 weeks. So this was one of the games I did watch, though. I thought the Storm dominated in the second half. The first half was a bit iffy, but we can expect that being a round one game. No one's going to be on the top game. I thought Harry Grant was brilliant. Cam Munster, before he went down with his finger injury and still came back on, I thought was an unreal effort. For the Eels, Jermaine Hopgood probably be my best for them. Yeah. The bloke is an absolute tank. He motors like Pat Carrigan. And I thought Moses was a bit quiet. I thought Brown was probably the better out of the halves. And I think for me it showed the Eels are missing Reid Marnie. I think Hodgson had a good game for him, being his first, but I just feel like there was so many passes that were off the mark and it set Moses and Brown back a step. And so I thought all round was a good game. I think Storm will definitely improve. They weren't at their best, that's for sure. And I think the Eels will bounce back, but it's just hard to know when.
Yeah, that's fair. To put this into perspective, this week, Josh Hodgson had one or two run meters, which is obviously that's not what you expect from a hooker. You want. I mean, to be fair to him, he had 45 tackles, and I think he only missed 42 tackles. Sorry, 3 missed. But you put into perspective the fact that he had they played 84 minutes. He only had 2 run meters total, and then I think Reid Marnie in a losing team had about 60, 70 odd, and he wasn't even running it very much. So I think they are missing Reid Marnie quite a bit. Hodgson was good in defense. A few of his passes, like you said, Lachlan, were a bit suspect. But I mean, yet again, it's his first game back. Like for all the other players, it's their first game back for the season, but for him, it's his first game back in like 2 seasons. So he'll get there. But yeah, they did definitely miss Marnie in that game. But Faraz, what do you think?
Yeah, look, cracking game to start off, by the way. I mean, it was a good choice whoever put this as the season opener. I think Parramatta will be disappointed as they dominated the first half. They had plenty of field position. They had a lot of pressure on Melbourne. Melbourne missed Munster as well due to a hand injury he had to go off during the first half. It was had all that possession, and I get it's round one, so you can't be 100%, but there were a few chances gone begging there, and they could have easily been up 12 or 18 nil. But this is the sort for you, man. Like, you never count them out. No matter how bad they're playing, they're always in the game. Hopgood is impressive right now. I think the call of origin is a bit too early, as he's only played 14 odd games. But the way he's played, you can't deny what a freak he is. And look, another guy that comes from the Panthers system, I think Parramatta will be used by him a lot. Moses wasn't at his best, but I don't really particularly blame him because of Hodgson's bad service. But it's his first game, so it's hard to really dictate to see how these teams go. But from what I've seen, that Reed Miney is going to be a big miss for Parramatta attack. Whether they remain top 4 or not is to be seen. But credit to Melbourne. I mean, the round 1 streak continues, and yeah, great stuff for Melbourne.
Well, yeah, you look at the service difference from the two hookers of that first game of the season. Josh Hodgson, it was very wishy-washy. A few passes went behind the players. He put his own halves under a lot of pressure. So Hodgson, I mean, it's his first game back, like I said, in quite a while. So you'd hope he fixes it up. But Harry Grant was faultless Thursday night. I don't think he made one error. Apart from one error, Harry Grant was absolutely amazing. He ended up racking up 100 kicking meters. I think he had obviously the game-winning try, 72 run meters, a couple tackle breaks. He made 59 tackles with only 4 missed. So it really puts into perspective how a good number 9 in the game can change sort of the perspective and the result for a team.
I will say it was good to see Christian Welsh back out there for Melbourne after his injuries last year. I thought he was great in his first game back in a long time. I'm just pulling up the stats here. Ran 134 meters, so that's pretty solid. How many tackles did he make? And 37 tackles. As a front rower, you can't really complain with that after a long time out of the game.
Exactly.
Filling the shoes of Jesse Bromwich and the likes like that.
Yeah, and keep in mind, just like Josh Hodgson, Christian Welsh is another player who hasn't played in 2 pretty much, yeah. Well, sorry, not 2 years, but like he didn't play last season. This is his first season back, and honestly, it looked like he probably hadn't left. He looked a bit more cautious. I'd probably say didn't look like he was 100% trusting himself just yet. But I mean, the stats you brought up, that's really good stats.
I thought Nick Meaney was underrated as well. I thought he was actually really good at fullback.
Oh yeah, he had a brilliant game. He was probably if Harry Grant didn't score that last try.
More as well. I think Josh King should be spoken about more as well as a player.
Oh yeah, Josh King had a great game as well. He's expected to re-sign with the Storm actually, apparently. So good on him for that if he chooses to do that. But yeah, I reckon if Harry Grant wasn't player of the match, if he didn't score that match-winning try, I mean, he started a good game other than the match-winning try, but Nick Meaney was probably second in line for player of the match that game. He had a blinder of a game, didn't drop many at fullback. He was put under pressure all night with the high bombs, and yeah, it's great to see him excelling. I mean, I know Pappenhausen will come back in, and Pappenhausen will eventually get the Storm jersey when he comes back in. But Nick Meaney, I mean, he's a handy replacement at fullback to have for Melbourne. So, but yeah, that Thursday night, done and dusted. We'll move on to Friday evening. Warriors defeat the Knights 20-12. This was in New Zealand. Boys, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, look, I'm a bit gutted here. I tipped Newcastle last minute. I'm a bit filthy. I should have backed the Warriors at home. But look, it was actually a good game. Like, and I'm not just saying like, oh, it was a good game because of the scoreline. Because like usually you see these like bottom tier sides playing out a close game, and it's always like poor quality, a lot of errors, like City penalties given away. I think both of us played well. Credit to Newcastle as due. They turned up in New Zealand. It was always going to be hard to beat. They're up for the challenge of the Warriors at home right now for a new season. Yeah, Newcastle played well. They were right into the match. I think until the HIA stuff happened with Kalen Ponga, who I think Ponga had a great game at 5'8". I'm not saying he was the best because he did miss a fair few opportunities, but for someone who hasn't played 5'8" before and a lot of pressure with him being there, I think he'd had himself really well. And he can hold his head high. I think some of his passing game was insane. His side steps, when he's close to the line, he looks down. Every time he's with the ball, I feel like he's going to score. So credit to Ponga. He played a great game at 5'8". I think the Knights were costing there was silly errors towards the end. I just think the Warriors in defense was just great. They had a few try saves towards the end. Charlie Klosser was great at the back. Tamer Martin was alright. Wasn't too special, but he did the job. But credit to the Warriors at home. I'm not saying it's going to be a fortress for them, but they are going to have a few more wins there to string out. That's going to help them avoid the bottom fall. So credit to them. It was a great game, and hopefully for Newcastle they bounce back. They've got the Tigers next week.
Yeah. And Lachlan, what about you?
So I only saw the first half of this game, but from what I saw, I thought Nickel Clockstad was pretty unreal at the fullback there. Even Lachlan Miller on debut for his new club, I thought he was pretty sensational. As I can see, he ran over for 100. He ran over 180 meters. Tohu Harris, I thought he was a machine once again. And from what I saw, Bradman Best played a pretty good game. He was pretty quiet last year because he was injury prone, but hopefully this year the kid can keep going, and I think he's in for a big year. But from what I saw, Newcastle, they're lacking a few things here and there, but we did expect this looking at their team. The Warriors in New Zealand always gives them a huge boost, but it'll be interesting to see how they go in Australia up against one of the top teams.
Yeah, that's fair. For me, I did watch most of this game. I think I might have missed out on just the start, but I think I watched about 60 minutes of it. The Kalen Ponga incident, he was taken off. That could have affected the game. I think at that stage, it might have been Warriors 14 to Knights 12.
They're up by 2 early.
Yeah. So Ponga could have definitely had a bigger effect on that. He got taken off for a head by the independent doctor for a head knock, even though it didn't look like much. He didn't stay down after it. It didn't really look like much impact. So I think the NRL really needs to look at that because that bit of a horrid call. But I'm happy for the Warriors that they ended up getting over the line. The new recruits looked good. They look like a pretty refreshed team, and their forward pack awesome. I think is it Jackson Ford? He played a really good game. He had a great game. Sean Johnson's goal kicking was a bit off.
Dragons once again losing another one.
My goodness. I mean, every player seems shit when they're at the Dragons and they leave. All of a sudden they become great.
I don't want to be a bit too negative here on the spotlight, but I've got to say that Sean Johnson is slowly fading away. I just can't see him getting any better this year.
Yeah, that's fair. He did have. There was one moment. Oh, sorry, you're going, Lottie.
I'm going to say by the end of the year, he won't be in the team. It'll be Metcalf and Martin.
It could have been Metcalf and Martin for round one. If only Metcalf didn't do. I think Metcalf did something to his hamstring. Well, it wasn't too severe, but he's going to be out for the first 5-6 weeks or so. But yeah, Sean Johnson, he had a pretty shit game. The only probably saving grace. There was a few moments where on scrum plays he looks like he was going to sell the dummy and break through, but wasn't able to do it. But yeah, it was a good game. Congratulations to the Warriors. It was quite a good game for two teams who finished in the bottom four last season.
I just want to touch on something else. I think this independent doctor stuff with the stepping in for the HIAs, I didn't see the Ponga incident myself, but there was an incident in the Dolphins game where I think it was Jared Wallace was down holding his leg, and then the independent doctor stepped in and said he needed to go off for a HIA. I don't know where the leg is connected to the brain, but
yeah,
it feels like multiple times through this round, the independent doctor stepped in when it wasn't even associated with the HIA, the injury.
It did. It happened quite a few times. I think it happened two or three times in. I know it happened to Brendan Smith at one point in that Dolphins Roosters game. I know it happened to obviously Jared Wallace, and it happened to Kalen Ponga. I just think it's not the right way to go about things. I mean, if they have had a proper head knock and they do look a bit out of it, then yeah, it's probably right to get them to go off. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is why they told him to go off was the fact that I think last year, when players did hit their head, there was a couple times they'd fake other injuries, fake being hurt on other parts of their body to try and make it look like the reason they were staying down was for a different reason. But honestly, if you look at the contact on some of those, you can see that it's not what they're trying to do.
Well, I think was it even Kurt Capewell stayed down at the end of the game to milk the clock.
I'm not sure what's happened here, but go ahead.
I think it was Kurt Capewell stayed down at the end of the game to milk the clock, and because he stayed down, they pulled him off.
It's yeah, I don't agree with it at all, but yeah, apparently the independent doctor, I'm not sure. Hopefully they figure out a way to fix that up, as things are falling over here. But no, it was a good game though, and but sorry to Knights fans for that incident with the independent doctor. I hope they somehow figure out a way to overrule those sort of situations. But here's a good one. Panthers 12, Broncos 13, Friday night footy. Doesn't really get much better than that. I mean, unless you're a Penrith fan. I'm sure every other team, every other supporter of every other team enjoyed watching this game. Where to start? The Broncos, good game. They look to be in good touch to start the season. But it is one game, and you can't really judge a team off one game. I mean, it is against the reigning premiers, but I'm not going to judge Broncos too over the top yet. I think it was a really good game. I think doesn't mean that Broncos are in a better chance this year for finals with the recruiting and with the way the team looks. I think possibly so, but again, it's the first game. Can't judge too much off of it. But Lockie, what did you make of it?
So I was on the M1 this whole game. I was driving from my hometown to Brisbane. From the glimpse I saw at the KFC drive-thru in Gympie, it looked like the Broncos were just there to play for each other this year. I know they're going to have to stick to that, and as Kevin Weld has said, it's the best defense he's seen since he's been at the club. It seemed like the Panthers were getting flustered because we had so many players going to one side. They were working for each other. There was three-man attack at all times. You saw Staggs and Farnworth. They were doing their roles in the centre position with the edges. I thought Capewell and Ricky, from what I saw, had a good game.
Yeah,
they just seemed like they were all on the same page. It didn't seem like there was a whole chapter going in the one play. They all knew what was going on. They were all running lines. They were all same play every set, get to your kick. And that's what we want to see from the Broncos. As much as I'm a Broncos fan, it's just good for the whole comp. When the Broncos are playing well, everyone wants to watch them. I mean, as much as 50% of the competition wants to see us get flogged and win another wooden spoon, it's still, when the Broncos are playing well, they're entertaining footy. It's not just get to a kick and kick it down the other end. So, positive signs. It's going to be a big year for them, I reckon. Top 8 finish, definitely on the cards. I know it's round 1, but going off last year and then seeing that performance, they're definitely on the right track.
There's a few teams that I think when they're playing well, it makes the whole competition better to watch. And for me, the teams that it is, Broncos is one of them. I think when the Bulldogs are playing well, I enjoy watching. I think footy is a lot better. Sea Eagles is sort of one I've grown to enjoy over the years. But yeah, when Broncos, they've been one of the best teams in the competition in their histories. Welcome back, Faraz. But so for me, I love this game. I want to point out a few stats before I hand it over to Faraz to give his thoughts. For the possession, Panthers had 54% of the possession to Broncos 46%. Keep in mind, in the second half, the Panthers had most of the ball on the Broncos' try line. The possession they had was in try-scoring opportunities. I think we had to make 100 more tackles or something. They had like over 100 more passes than us. They spread it out, more offloads than us. They kept spreading it out, and no matter where they went with the ball, the Broncos followed. The defense was there. The defense was good. Smart play by Reno to take the 1 point when they were only 6 points up. Ended up proving to be the deciding factor in the end. But very proud of my team, and I can't wait to see what they bring into this week against the Cowboys. What about you, Faraz?
Well, I mean, first of all, starting with this, I mean, did I expect this to be a competitive match? Yes, I did. But did I expect us to win? Not at any million chance would I've given us a chance to beat the Panthers in Penrith. I mean, this win tells me that Broncos are a top 8 team, but it's now about consistency because, like, you got to remember, like, they were top 4 after 20 rounds, not like 5 or 6. They were there. They just had 6 more weeks, basically, and they just fell off a cliff. Like, if you look closely at this result, like, by this point, you wouldn't be surprised anymore because the Broncos, they had a knack of, like, beating top-tier sides. Last year, they beat 2 of the top 4 sides in that bracket. They beat Rabbitohs as well. They gave Saw a run for their money once they played. So they've had a knack of knocking out the big side. So this performance is always in them, but it's about consistency and, like, if they can stay injury-free.
Well said, Faraz. As lucky he was showing his multi there for the Panthers-Broncos game. I backed us.
Plus.
Also, can I
backed us all week.
Oh,
Yeah,
can I
what's
add
up?
one more thing? That is probably the best defensive effort I've seen from us since 2017. I'm just going to throw a bold call out there. That's the best I've seen us defend. And remember, in my opinion, when you're playing against Penrith, you're not just playing against them, you're playing against the crowd. Like, the crowd is so toxic and it just gets into you.
And the referees, apparently. I'm not sure. Lockie didn't have the pleasure of of seeing how biased the referees were, but I'm sure you can picture it.
All I heard all night was Luai this, Luai that, and the man somehow still can pull it together. From what I could hear on the radio, Reynolds and Mam were outstanding.
Yeah.
Herbie Farnworth scored a double. And I heard for the Panthers, Dylan Edwards, Isaiah Yeo, the usuals, but Cleary and Luai were a bit off.
Yeah, and that's a fair assumption. For me, obviously, most of our viewers would know I run the Forever Brisbane Broncos account. I chose my top 3, and I think my top 3 were Paddy Carrigan, Payne Haas, and Adam Reynolds. But obviously, the order was actually Reynolds, Carrigan, then Haas. Reynolds just led the team around like a true captain. Honestly,
his kicking out was instrumental. His kicking out is well, in my opinion. Also, can I just give a credit, a shout out to Martin Sapel? Like, I think he can be a really good sign if he keeps playing like that. We all need just only 20 minutes from Marty. If Marty can bring out the same impact, and you only get like 4 runs, and he already crossed 50 meters, and his first run just set up the intensity. So I think Marty will be key in the coming weeks because Haas has played too much workload. He's played 80 minutes, the shoulder injury and whatnot. So this indirectly is a great signing.
Well, you look at these for stats. 18 minutes played by Marty Tapau, 54 run meters, 21 post-contact meters, 3 tackle breaks, 11 tackles for 1 missed. That's some good stats from 18 minutes played. That's awesome.
Also, do you think Broncos can come top? Both of you, do you think Broncos can come top 4?
Play like that every week? Yes. Only if we play like that every week.
I mean, now the key, they've set the bar that high. Now the key is just consistency. When you're losing to teams, you can only lose by about 14 or less.
Yeah. Not like the end of last year. But we'll move on from Broncos. We'll move on to the Saturday afternoon game. Seagulls versus Bulldogs. Seagulls beat the Bulldogs 31-6. Absolute flogging. DC scoring his first hat trick in history, NRL history. What did you guys make of this game? Faraz, you start off this time.
Look, I think this result, it's not a result that like means that the dog season is over, but it's a result when you kind of look at it, it's showing that the Bulldogs still need time to gel. Like, everyone's saying top 4 smokies, and like, you're off your heads, respectively. Like, they're going to improve for me, don't doubt. There's too much quality there not to. Reed Barney had a great game. They were fairly competitive until, like, the Simbin call, which was a bit controversial. But even then, a few soft tries here and there. Kick on last was just horrendous. That was just like, Flanagan needs to get more involved. Burton was at his best. But to be fair, Flanagan's the 7. He has to get more involved because that puts too much pressure on Burton. Look, credit to Manly. DC turns it up second half, big time. Hat-trick, first hat trick in the NRL. Tommy Turbo, great to have it back. You know, as a Queenslander, like, love seeing him play every week. He makes a big difference for that team. But for the Bulldogs, it's going to take time. Everyone's saying top 4, top 6, easy. Like, it's not how it works. Like, and they don't need him to lose 13 plus this week. So I don't know if that says something about the Dogs, but they still need a genuine 1 and genuine 7. But it's going to take time. Like, things don't happen overnight.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. It was a good game from the Seagulls. I was impressed. Obviously, their trial form was really good, and that's why they ended up winning the preseason challenge. They played well in this game as well, as Faraz just dropped out there again. But, yeah, for me, I think – I don't know. The Seagulls looked good. The Bulldogs were very disappointing in my eyes. Kikau was disappointing. Marnie was disappointing. Not really much else to say on my part. I think it was disappointing from the Bulldogs, good from Manly, and that's pretty much all. What about you, Lockie?
I mean, I didn't watch this game. I was out all day Saturday. But from what I can see, the Bulldogs, they're still lacking something there. I know all the star player signings of Marnie, Kikau, everyone's going to get excited. They're going to think, oh, top 8, top 8. I don't really dig into the fact that they need time, because if you look at the other teams, every club with a new combination nearly won on the weekend. So You can't really say that's a factor. They had all preseason to get this right. They still, from the moments I saw, they still looked out of whack in defense and attack. They didn't look like they were one like the other teams. But from what I saw, Garrick, Cherry Evans, and Turbo were standouts. Jake Trbojevic was a workhorse once again. And for the Bulldogs, I don't really see much of them, so I won't comment on them too much. But we'll see where the Bulldogs go this year. I think if they've got more losses than wins by the halfway mark, I don't see them going anywhere.
Yeah, and that's fair. I recently redid my ladder prediction. We only did a ladder prediction video not too long ago, and I've already changed like probably like 10 of the team's positions so far. Yeah, but we'll move on to Saturday evening. Cowboys versus Raiders. The Cowboys held an 18-0 lead in the first half of the game. Raiders scored just before the break to make it 18-6, and Raiders went on a bit of a roll, 18-all at one point. Chad Townsend iced the game. What did you make of this one?
Oh, yeah, good game. I thought the Cowboys in the first half showed where they left off last year. I thought Tommy Dean and Townsend were good in the halves. Scotty Drinkwater. I mean, the kid's probably a smoky to make the Queensland squad this year if they need depth. I'm just going to put it out there.
I think one thing. I think, sadly for Queensland, I think Scott Drinkwater is actually New South Wales eligible.
Well, he won't get a spot then because Freddie only chooses his same players. So
I know. I think, but go ahead.
Reuben Cotter, absolute freak. Reece Robson, I think he'll get a spot this year in that New South Wales team. Cohen Hess in the second row, I don't think it's going to stay. I think you've got to be looking at the likes of Griffin Knee maybe injecting that spark. For the Raiders, I thought Tarpany was good, as he always is. The man's a freak. And I thought Sebastian Chris did a pretty good job at fullback, to be honest. He hasn't played there a lot. He plays in the centres normally. But the Raiders, they'll be there again this year, but it just depends whereabouts. Cowboys, they'll be there once again, even though I hope they're not. I hope they miss the 8, but I doubt they will. But move on to next week. We'll see how they go, see how the Cowboys can play up into a derby against a red-hot Broncos team.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who was good from this game, Tom Starling off the bench. He had 43 minutes total off the bench. He had a try assist, 55 run meters, but it wasn't less about the run meters, more about 5 tackle breaks, 1 line break assist, 29 tackles for only 3 misses, and no errors. He was really great off the bench. And Danny Levi, possibly a bit disappointing in his first NRL game back. He ended up playing about 40 minutes or so, but didn't really make much of an impact. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Ricky will have a bit of a situation here to decide if he wants to keep Danny Levi at 9 after that game or promote Tom Starling back into the starting 9 or even Zach Wolford. I'm not sure what Zach Wolford did to deserve to be dropped from the team. He was a great player for them last season, only a young kid as well, and he did a great job at 9. But, I mean, I guess we'll see. Faraz, what were your thoughts?
Well, honestly, this in a funny sense, this game sort of defines the Raiders. One half they're down and out, and the next they just come out of nowhere. Like, I think they'll be around that top 8 spot again. They'll probably be fighting for it, 7 to 11. I just hope they're consistent, bro, because that second half, the way they came back, they look like a fearless footy side. I just think for the Raiders, it's about like starting well and keeping down the errors. For the Cowboys, look, I think most people tip them to be at Townsville. They're a hard team to be at Townsville. You could argue that got lucky there, but good teams just win. Even if you're playing shit, you just find a way to win, don't you? So the Cowboys, they don't care. It's round 1. They'll get the 2 points regardless. Even if they nearly choke that, they still got the 2 points. I think Scotty Drinkwater is going to go and play, because I really think he is like the decision to move into fullback was a master stroke, and I think that's one of the things that Top Raiders has an excellent role, and I think that's why if Drinkwater can keep playing the way he is, you've got Holmes at the back, right? The leggy, that's how you pronounce that, and getting better. Tavalo, or Colin has McLean. It's going to be a tough fight against the big. For their sake, they're going to be consistent, but we'll see how it goes.
You cut it out a bit towards the end there for us, but I think we understood what you were saying. Sharks
Just
versus
reporting
Rabbitohs.
from SEN Radio here on 93.9 Hits FM.
Saturday night. Sorry. Sharks versus Rabbitohs. Now, this one was actually one I didn't watch, surprisingly. I think I watched the last 10 minutes or so of it, or the last 20 minutes or so. So I can't give too much on it, but all I know is Latrell Mitchell looked good. Lachlan Ilias had a career best game. And obviously the Sharks struggled a bit without Nico Hines, but not as much as I thought they would, honestly. Lachlan, since you didn't really see much of it either, give your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I won't touch on much. I didn't see much, but from what I saw, they lost to Tola and Jairo, I believe. Cameron Murray up there again. Latrell Mitchell. The man's a freak. The man's probably in top 3 for Dally M this year, I'm going to be honest. The Sharks without Nico Hines, bit worrying signs there. The Wade Graham shot, I mean, I don't see much problem in that. I say it's all force, but that's their call. I don't really know. Lachlan Ilias, I heard he played a cracker. I haven't watched the highlights yet either, so I can't really touch on it too much. But fair credit to the Rabbitohs. They'll be there once again, and it's not worrying signs to the Sharks. They'll live and they'll learn. They'll move on to next week.
Yep. That's fair. Keep in mind, Sharks did not have Nico Hines. And I've also got word now from Faraz. He was trying to push on. His phone's actually about to die. But thank you, Faraz, for your contributions tonight. He won't be joining us back tonight. So Lachlan and I will bring this home. Dolphins versus Roosters. Now, I know I said it again. I know I said that if Dolphins win, I will jump off a cliff. For everyone last time who was telling me to jump off a cliff, I will not do it. Okay? It's a joke, but fucking hell, how did the Roosters lose this one? How the Dolphins, they played well. And the Dolphins have earned my respect, but I still hate them for taking Herbie Farnworth and Flegler. But no, very well played to the Dolphins. The Roosters were a bit disappointing, in my opinion. They were in my top 2 for this year. And I have had a bit of a rethink after that game. I know it's first game of the season, but with the team they had against the team the Dolphins had, they shouldn't have been losing that one by 10 points. But Lachlan, what did you make of the game?
Unreal is the first word. I mean, what an effort. Felice Kafusi, absolute gun in defence. Ray Stone, Mark Nichols, all them played well. And then I thought, credit to the kid. I mean, he's 19, making a club debut in the NRL. Katoa, I thought, yeah, he had his off moments, but all he can do is learn. He's under the coaching of Wayne Bennett. He's got the best coach you can possibly have as your first year. But then you look at the Roosters and they're missing Angus Crichton, they're missing Joey Manu. As soon as they come in, I mean, as soon as you have Corey Allen as your number 14, you're in struggle streak. Jackson Paulo, he'll shift out of the team, I believe. Suwali will go to the wing, and Manu will go to the centres. And then Jake Turpin, I thought he was handy to have. Brandon Smith going down. Victor Radley again. I hope he gets those injuries sorted. You need Radley and Smith in that team. Otherwise, it's not going to be great. I do have the Roosters as minor premiers still. I'm not going to change that after one round. But they've definitely got some thinking to do. I think attack isn't the problem. I think defense is what they need to look at after that game.
Yeah, definitely. And anyone who was here last episode, amidst me saying I would jump off a cliff if Dolphins won, I also did actually mention that the Roosters have very bad luck in round one games against opposition that end up finishing bottom four. So last year it was the Knights. I believe the year before it may have been the Knights again. Few games the Roosters play. Usually round one, round two, round three, they always lose to opposition that would finish beneath them. And I feel like this is just a classic example again. I'm just sad I didn't pick up on it sooner. Cost me a perfect round in the end. Well, other than the Tigers game, but we'll move on to that one now. Sunday evening, the Tigers lose to the Titans 22-10. They didn't start Appy Coruscant at hooker. They decided to demote him to the bench. The captain. That is a shit call. I'll let you touch up on it a bit first.
The Tigers, they've got some thinking to do. They're another team. I mean, you look at the signings, you think, oh, yeah, brilliant, they're on the up. But from what I saw on Sunday night, they look like they're on completely different pages. I'm hearing Marshall and Tim Sheen aren't getting on the greatest terms with their plans of the club, which that's always a first problem in itself. Papali'i looked like he was bloody playing reserve grade. Appy Coruscant didn't start the game. Dane Laurie looked like he had a bit of a blunder. Charlie Staines wasn't with it. When I turned it on in the end of the first half, it was just errors galore. And then you just look at the Titans team, and you had Aaron Schott there standing over players on the ground. He's putting shots on here and there. You had Dave Fafita running off the line of Kieran Foran. You had Tino running through the middle of them. And then you had Sam Verrill scooting out. But then you also you had Tanner Boyd and Kieran Foran, which they're complementing themselves, which they used to have Toby Sexton and
AJ Brimson lost since. But yeah.
So the Titans look like they're on the right wavelength now. We'll have to see. I'm not going to judge them after one round, but from what I saw, they've got the points in them. It's just defense again. But the Tigers, they've got to go back to the drawing board and sort something out, because from what they put up in their home ground, Leichhardt Oval, they're supposed to put on a show in front of their home fans with the new players. They put up the opposite.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing that's still baffling me, how did the Bulldogs let Aaron Schott go? I'm not sure. You look at their current centres now, Jake Averillo and Paul Alamotti. I get that Alamotti's in his first season. He's going to be a good player. And I get that he had an off game, but how did they let Schott go?
I don't see Jake Averillo being a centre. I don't know what they're thinking with that. I would have Braden Burns in there, but
well, for me, it's as simple as this. Averillo is not a centre, but he was a good fullback last season. He was a good fullback. I rate him more than Hayes Perham, who's currently at fullback for the Dogs. And I get that Hayes Perham's young, and just like Alamotti, he's eventually going to grow.
I don't understand why they can't give Hayes Perham a go in the centres, and they put Hayes Perham on the wing and put Kiros in the centres. Yeah,
I mean, Kiros has played centre before. You can put him in the centres, Perham on the wing, Averillo at fullback. You're not really changing your team around too much. But Averillo, he played good at fullback the last season for the Dogs. Went to centre. He had a pretty hard game there. 88 run meters, which for a centre is really not what you want to do. He had a line break, about 7 kick meters. I'm not really sure what, but he also had 6 tackles, 5 missed. He's not a great defender, especially not in the centres. So, yeah, it's a bit of a tough one for me. You got to move Averillo to fullback, like you said, pair him to wing, Karaz to centre, or even try pair him in the centres. He's got I tell you what, he's skillful enough to play in the centres, Hayes Perham. But that'll be the games. We'll quickly. There's only a few pieces of news today, only 4 pieces of news. Joseph Suaalii is set to activate his player option to remain at the Roosters for 2024. He reportedly turned down $900K a year from the Rabbitohs to stay at the Roosters on $750K. Now, the Rabbitohs wanted him back. If for anyone who didn't know, he was originally a Rabbitohs junior, left to the Roosters, and he's turned down an extra $150K more a year to stay with the Roosters. What do you make of this, Lockie?
I mean, to add also, he has Rugby Australia chasing him. The union want him as well, but it's good to see for once the kids actually choosing loyalty over bloody money. I mean, it just shows Trent Robinson and him would have a strong connection. I mean, if he goes back to the Rabbitohs, yeah, he's got a spot there waiting for him, but I think he stays at the Chooks. Fair credit to him. I think it's a great idea. I think if he has a good season next year, the Roosters will look to re-sign him. So good option.
Well, there is talk that I mean, obviously James Tedesco is still the best fullback in the game, no doubt about it. But I think Tedesco, I should quickly double check, but I believe he's up near his 30s now. He is 30, James Tedesco, and he turned 30 this year. So obviously, I'm not too sure how much longer he signed with the Chooks. But, I mean, usually when fullbacks, when they get to the age of 33, 34, they start losing a bit of pace, losing a bit of their agility, a bit of their know-how, their match fitness goes down a bit. And I know Tedesco, obviously, very quality player, probably the best fullback in the NRL, possibly in the world. But, I mean, I don't know. I could see him staying with the Roosters for a couple more years as a centre wing, and then Roosters possibly looking to push out Tedesco when he starts to become a little less like himself, and put in Suaalii at fullback.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a lot of things that could happen. But to be fair, if he signed with Rabbitohs, I'm not really sure where he'd play. I mean, you've got Campbell Graham in the right centre role. You've got Alex Johnson left wing. You've got Latrell Mitchell at fullback, and then possibly, well, they've just put in Isaiah Tass at left centre, who's been doing an awesome job. So I'm not sure they put him out. Only place I could see him playing is right wing, where he played for the Roosters last season, and maybe that's why he didn't want to sign for $900K a year if he's going to be back in the winger position. But I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens. I think apparently he's re-signed with the Roosters. I think that's the right choice for his career at the moment, because he's a centre at the moment. For me, he's a centre first, winger second, and I reckon he's going to be a fullback when Tedesco retires or gets forced out of the club. But Spencer Leniu, another Rooster now, he's confirmed he signed with the Roosters. He had a quote I might try and pull up soon, but it wasn't too sure. All that had been announced before this was that he was definitely leaving Penrith at season's end. And there was speculation he'd gone to the Roosters, but there wasn't anything set in stone yet. But Spencer Leniu's quote was, "The decision was purely based on the benefit of me and progressing my career. There are a lot of other things I took into consideration. Trent Robinson is a really good coach, and the Roosters have been the pinnacle of the NRL for a number of years. There was an opportunity there for me, and he explained what he sees in me and how I can impact the team." And this is just another case in point where Trent Robinson is just such a great coach for that Roosters team.
I mean, great signing for him. I mean, Spencer Leniu, he's a wrecking ball off the bench, but I just don't understand where the Roosters are pulling this money from. I mean, like, I don't know if Brandon Smith's giving him money from his side hustle or what, but I mean, good on him. Good signing for him. It's probably, they don't really need another forward off the bench, but if they think that's what they need, then credit to him. He'll go well under Trent Robinson's coaching, that's for sure. I know Jerry Hargraves is leaving, so probably using some of that money.
Well, yeah, I think the fact is I don't think he's actually going to be playing off the bench. I think if it was, he would have stayed at Penrith, because I think that's what Penrith were offering him. But I think he's signed to play. I think when Jared Warrior-Hargreaves leaves, he's been promised a starting position. But that's hard for me to see as well because Matt Lodge is currently there at the Roosters in a starting position. He's been doing a good job since he's signed. And you have Lindsay Collins there, Queensland Maroons forward pretty much every year, waiting to get back into the starting team because obviously Jared Warrior-Hargreaves is usually in that spot. So I don't know. The Roosters, they have some quality forwards. And like you said, I'm not sure where they're pulling this money from. They've currently got the best fullback in the world, the best centre in the world, who are both there at the club. They've got Joseph Suoliti, who they've signed for $750K a year currently. They've signed Spencer Leniu. They've got Lindsay Collins, obviously, a Queensland representative forward. They've got Matt Lodge, Brandon Smith, one of the best hookers in the comp. And they've got Daniel Tupou, great winger. Again, there's so many players the Roosters have. Victor Radley again as well. So I'm not sure where they're pulling the money from, but good on the Roosters for picking out Spencer Leniu. I really wanted Broncos to get him, to be completely honest. And speaking of the Broncos, they're reportedly set to offer David Fifita a contract. Not too sure how I feel about this. I sort of have a bit of mixed feelings, but I'll let you speak on it first.
I don't think we need him. I mean, yeah, everyone hears David Fifita. Oh, wow, amazing, huge superstar. But since he left the Broncos, what has he done? You can't tell me he's been great. I mean, the bloke some days couldn't even get into the starting team last year. We've got Kurt Capel there, Jordan Ricky, who, if he has a big year, he's not going to lose his spot. Then you've got Brendan Piercore in the background. You've got Xavier Willison. We've got other young blokes coming through. We saw in the trials. I don't see why we need Dave Fifita. I would rather spend the money that we're offering him to buy 2 younger players with his money.
Well, yeah, it comes down to the fact that, I mean, the thing is for me, if we're getting David Fifita for like $700K a year, go ahead. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'd probably play him in Jordan Ricky's spot and maybe put Jordan Ricky on the bench and just say, look, when Capewell's contract is up, because Capewell is also getting to an age where he's nearly at 30 now as well. So maybe I'd be doing something like that. But at the same time, I don't really see a need for him. We have Jordan Ricky, we have Kurt Capewell, and we also have Brendan Piercore, who we currently have. He's played like 2 games of first grade, and we currently have him signed for $400K a year. And that's how much we want to retain him keep him from signing with Bulldogs or Roosters and stuff like that. So for me, I feel like it's not very tactical from the Broncos if they decide to choose this, because if we offer David Fifita a contract, that means we will possibly be losing Kurt Capewell, Jordan Ricky, or Brendan Piercore, or we could possibly lose even 2 of those players there. And I'm not too sure it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make at the moment for a player who's sort of off form, to be completely honest. And the last news segment piece of the day, Jordan Rapana has been suspended for 3 games. I want to add on that Wade Graham has also will be suspended for 3 games if he takes an early guilty plea. And if he decides to challenge it, could be 4. First, we'll touch on the Wade Graham one, because I know you said something about it just before. It was a fair tackle to me. I'm not too sure. I didn't really see any shoulder contact to the head. Definitely wasn't a sin bin.
I think the whiplash is what made it look worse than what it was.
Yeah, it looked fair. And you can't say he was jumping off the ground to make contact, because I feel like it was actually the contact he made that made him sort of move off the ground. A bit of a weird one there from the NRL. I'm not too sure I agree with that. But as for Rapana, it was a shoulder charge on Scott Drinkwater. It definitely was a shoulder charge. It was pretty clear. 3 games might be a bit over the top. I'm not too sure, but I don't know. He's had a bit of trouble in the past, Jordan Rapana, with shoulder charges.
Yeah.
Jordan
Rapana, he's sort of always in hot water, it seems. Like, it always seems like he's having some sort of brain fade. He's doing something, and he's always trying to dig himself out of the judiciary. I mean, he's got to have a look at himself. Like, he's costing his club games here.
Yeah, definitely. And he's obviously credit to Jordan Rupp. He is one of the best players in the Raiders squad.
Yeah.
And he's probably been unlucky to not play as many games for New Zealand or the Maori All Stars, but that's usually because by the time it gets to that point, he's suspended.
Yeah.
So he has a bit of an anger issue at times, and I feel like as a senior player at that club, he needs to step up and stop sort of the anger he sort of has in a lot of his tackles and gets into a bunch of fights a lot of the times. But yeah, hopefully the Raiders don't suffer too much from it. But that'll about wrap us up. Before I pass it over to Lachlan, I'll quickly promote our Instagram at the Final Siren Podcast. And sorry, wait 1 sec. Before I finish this, I want to quickly put up on the screen the ladder from this is the round 1 ladder, fully filled out. So Manly Seagulls at first place, Titans second, Dolphins third, Rabbitohs fourth, Warriors fifth, Storm sixth, Broncos seventh, Cowboys eighth, Dragons narrowly getting by, winning against that bye in ninth place, Panthers 10th, Raiders 11th, Eels 12th, Knights 13th, Sharks 14th, Roosters 15th, Tigers 16th, and the Bulldogs, the current sort of wooden spoon contenders at the moment, even though the season hasn't really kicked off too much. But make sure if you want to get weekly ladder updates, make sure to follow at the Final Siren Podcast. I'll be posting those each week now. So make sure you follow that. I'll hand it over to Lachlan to end us off.
Before I go on, tomorrow night, we will not be streaming on our YouTube, but we will be on someone else's. The great YouTuber, Sam Revel. You probably heard him around these areas once or twice. We will be live on his YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Queensland time, 7 p.m. New South Wales time. We'll be previewing the Broncos-Cowboys game Friday night, seeing that there's 3 Broncos fans on here, and he's a Cowboys fan. So we'll be on there. We'll be having a laugh. We'll be chatting footy. Jump over there. Give him a subscribe. And jump in the comment section. Let him know that you hear from us. So we'll be over there tomorrow night. So we'll see you there. It's been Noah and Faraz was here for a little bit, and myself, Lockie, once again. Make sure you follow the Instagram at the Final Siren Podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here. As Speed says, get on the club. Get on clubs. I think that is meaning, am I talking FIFA or what?
Yeah, you're talking, that is FIFA.
Okay, we're talking FIFA. So Noah's got to go. He's a busy man. He's got people who want him. We will see you in the next stream, whenever that will be. Though you'll see that on the Instagram. We'll keep you updated. As he says, Dolphins over Broncos. Hashtag fins up. Get out of here, boy.
Cheers, lads. See you in the next one.